Okay, we are here with school board member Stacy Rouse. Stacy's running for re-election. Thank you so much for joining us, Stacy. Want to let us know about yourself and why you're running for re-election?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm running for re-election. I've had one term. I started in 2022. I am a resident of Malibu, and as you know, with our at-large elections, everyone is voted by everyone in the community, and so Malibu is not guaranteed representation from somebody in Malibu who lives there on the board, although everyone represents everyone, but just in terms of proximity. And so it was a honor and a privilege for me that I was able to do that, and I would like to continue that for another term. The last 4 years, I feel like it has been a vital time, as all times are, to have somebody who's in the Malibu community who is able to be that bridge between the Santa Monica city and Malibu city and their residents, both directions. And I know I've learned a lot in this year. I also feel, in addition to being a representative of my community, there is a lot that I bring to the board and to the community and to our kids and our faculty and staff, including last time I really ran on a campaign of communication and being able to normalize differences of opinions. That's nothing that I've measured, so I can't say that I had an impact. I can't prove here's how it's different now. And there's a lot of reasons why things might be different, but I do feel like um, my being a part of the board, anytime you get a new person, you're going to have a difference on a board. But I do feel like I have seen an openness to new ideas. I feel like I'm hearing um, people talk to each other in different ways. Conflict is always going to happen. So zero conflict is actually a bad sign, not a good sign. But I do feel like I can often function as a thermostat, and I feel like that's happened. I have a big heart for early childhood education. I was on that DAC. I feel like that's been a vital part. It's run so well. Susan and everyone on there is good, but I do feel like I can bring that to the community. And last time, I know that I ran part of my campaign with three other members. It was very controversial. People were surprised and did not like that. But I feel like even that piece, getting to know that subset of the community, running in that, even during that time, I learned a lot about people's perceptions, what they were experiencing, how they felt, and saw that because I also knew people who were on the other side and hearing what they felt, just that difference of where everyone is at. And so that has kept me in part of communities who can sometimes be upset with what's going on, and I have unique insight into some of those thoughts as well, and that can help me know what kinds of questions to ask, know what to look for. So it's kind of a long answer, but there
No,
you go.
no, I
Sorry.
really appreciate it. Actually, your introduction kind of led me to a new question I wanted to ask you about the last piece, which is when you were running the last time and you heard all these issues with the district that people had, and now that you've done it for 4 years, you can probably start to separate some fact from fiction, where there's some things where there is legitimately real issues with the way the district has handled something, and there's some things which is just kind of overhyped and not really as big of an issue or as pertinent of an issue maybe. And what have you found in terms of your time about what separating, that those two things, and like where are the deficiencies in the district that they really need to be working on to be responsive to that community?
Yeah. Um, you'll have to stop me if I go too long, so just feel free to redirect me.
Go ahead.
Um, that's such a good question. It's probably a lot more nuanced, than it, communication is so complicated and communities are so complicated. Santa Monica is such a well-developed city, and it has not everyone, but the people who are involved are very involved, and it becomes identity for them. And I don't I feel free to correct me, but one thing that I've noticed being part of things is people really like um, to use the resources of the community to find agreement, to choose something and to move on. There's a lot of consensus and coalition building, which is and can be very positive. But if somebody is outside of that group, it can feel very separating. And so that can just instantly make somebody to feel outside because they're not part of the decision. If they're either outside of the group or they're counter to the group, for years, Santa Monica has been so successful because they have built these cross groups and they've been able to push things through. But if you're within that and have a side voice, or if you're outside of that, it can feel very alienating. And there are just real patterns that you can see across cultures, across situations. When people feel outside, it engenders these behaviors and these attitudes and these responses that can sometimes look like what we're seeing in microcosm in Santa Monica. So I think sometimes some of that dynamic is at play. Somebody feels unheard, somebody feels outside, and so no matter what, even if there's some agreement, they can have those dynamics at play. In terms of the district and how I think it can operate and improve, I think I alluded to this in my response. It is very bureaucratic. School districts just are all the things they have to do, and we are no exception to that. And when you know something really well, very complicated things either make sense or you've made them make sense. And to try to explain it or to try to get in from the outside can feel really difficult. I know that's a challenge I have felt as a parent and then as a Malibu member, and then coming in. I have had a lot of aha moments of, oh, I understand why this is what people are hearing. And sometimes that's right, and it's just hard to explain. And sometimes there could be better ways to kind of break it down and explain it and tell the story of what we're doing. And sometimes we're just stuck on something and we could do it a different way, but it's very difficult to change a big machine. So I think there's a lot of factors going into that.
Thanks. I really appreciate your insight there. Okay, who's up next? Isabel.
I'm muted. All right. Um, so maybe expanding on what you were just saying, because you did kind of touch on what I wanted to ask. You're supposedly the voice of Malibu, on the board, and you also talk about wanting to be a voice for the unheard. So those are maybe two different groups, but how do you think you've done that as far as the unheard across the district? But maybe more specifically about Malibu. How do you feel that sometimes the concerns of Malibu might be different from Santa Monica? And what have you advocated for or done in that regard? Or do you feel that there is anything different?
Hmm. Thanks, Isabel. Anytime you get named as a representative of your community, it's very daunting, because you're just one person, and representative is one thing, but like able to speak for the whole community is another. And so I know that there's going to be variations within Malibu, and whoever might be on the board is going to see things and do things differently. That's been true in the past, and hopefully, if until unification happens, more people from Malibu at some point will be able to be on the board, and we'll see that. I really try to do right by my community, but there are, through this fa past 4 years with the fires that have happened, with roads being closed and schools being closed, it's advocating was very difficult because just like in our community at large, different people are having different experiences or the same experiences and wanting different things, and speaking very clearly with very defined requests and very defined agenda of what is the right thing to do, how soon to do it, and what satisfaction is. And if you go through all the different things that have been brought up in Malibu about roads closed, about school recovery, about power in our schools and generators and closed days, um, I can just tell you right now, while people may know that I care and that I'm listening and that I'm doing my best, they would not say I have done everything I've wanted them to do the way they wanted me to do it. But at the same time, I try to just stay connected and to try to explain what people are telling me. I also try to build the bigger picture of, here's why this may not be possible. Here are the tricky things here. And yet sometimes things get done that I didn't know could be possible. And that's really when I sit back. And a lot of times it happens from continued sustained pressure and very loud voices. And that is a way, I mean, you guys are all in a political organization. You understand that is a way to get things done. So then I kind of sit back and go, okay, how could I have advocated for that differently? Was I wrong about the goalpost? And what really can we do? Because even sometimes when we do things, is that what's best for everyone? Or when we don't do something, was that best for everyone? So that can be really tricky. But I hope my community continues to feel like they know me, like I am trying at large to be a voice for the community and to connect them. I really try when people have questions, I try to tell them this is how to navigate the system. Here's who you should ask. Here are good ways to say this. This is
Mhm.
how to explain it because I do feel like people speak different languages. They have words they hear. Not, I mean, we're all speaking English, but even within English, different words and different ways of phrasing things. So to kind of help, when you say this, it means this to them. What do you mean? Okay, here's how you might be able to say this. Here's who to ask. You're going here, but this is the appropriate place for that. And not just higher up the chain, but to the right place, because higher is, Antonio, Dr. Shelton doesn't make all the decisions. People do the work underneath. So knowing the right order to go and the right ways to ask. Um, I didn't answer about, in general, other people in the community not voices heard. If you'd like me to, feel free to ask a follow-up question.
Well, it depends on our time, John. Do we have
Go
time?
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. On the other voices too.
So, and by no means, that is a goal that I have, but there are lots of unheard voices that I don't have contact with, am not aware of, are not, one person can't do everything. And I even look at our other aspiring school board members and the people who are currently running again. And I see areas where they're in touch with unheard voices that I am not. So, Alicia comes to mind with her connections within the community, especially, but all of them I could say something. But for me personally, I think it's often the person who has a deep problem or has had a continued history of dissatisfaction. And I think I kind of come in there when there's long, intractable issues between a group of people. That's kind of where I try to come in if it's somebody I know, but respectfully. I'm not just going to walk in to somebody who has trouble and become their voice. It's their job to be their voice, but to just try to help amplify that and help them know where to go.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sean.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you for being with us. To what extent, in California public schools, there's been somewhat of an issue of enrollment declines. Uh, Maybe lesser extent, at least in the last year in Santa Monica, but there seems to, or Santa Monica, Malibu Unified, but there seems to have been a longer trend in enrollment declines in the school district at large and in the Malibu community. To what extent? Uh, can the board kind of increase buy-in in our public schools rather than sending children to kind of private schools? To what extent can the board increase enrollment within our school districts so that we won't see further enrollment declines?
Mhm. Um, I think the specific role of the board in that case as a group could be really bringing that forward as an issue to focus on and asking for the superintendent and district employees specifically to really move forward with plans for that. I know everyone is concerned about loss of enrollment, and I know in just what we're already doing, we try to address that, but there hasn't been like a specialized initiative of how to address that or an extra. It's a concern, but it isn't something that's been pulled apart as here's one of our top priorities, right? Um, as an individual board member, I think really hyping up our schools, talking to people about it, finding out why people wouldn't come, why they're not coming or why they're thinking about not coming. I know specifically in Malibu, historically, we have lost a lot of people from fifth grade to sixth grade. There's a lot of recent theories why people think that might happen. Sometimes we had a 6 to 12 school, and for some people that was daunting or averse. And so they wanted to find a school where their kids were in middle school and high school separate. Malibu is small. Sometimes there's a thought that they may not get the ability to play the sports they want or do the things they want. So some specific things that have helped there is having some middle school sports. We now have Malibu Middle and Malibu High. They are still very close together, but they are a lot more distinct than they've ever been, even in that small area of property. I think marketing has a lot to do with it. Malibu is different on the needs for permitting in students than Santa Monica. Basic aid districts don't get ADA on students. So when we permit and we bring in other students, it does add to our enrollment, which is really needed in Malibu, especially. Not that it's not needed in Santa Monica, but we're getting more students, there's more costs, and we're not getting more money from the state. It's going to come out of our basic aid budget. But for Malibu, where even though the policy all looks the same, there's a defined practice that more people, if you want to permit into Malibu, it is a lot easier to do so, and it's looked for. So, going out to the Conejo Valley, up to Camarillo, that sort of thing. But in terms of people within the community and bringing them back, I think the kinds of things to address are those kinds of issues like sports classes, schedule at the high school, after school care for young kids. So, and these are all things we're working on, but if we really wanted to ratchet that up, that might be a thought of how we would do that. And Sean, if I didn't answer your question very well, feel free to ask follow-up.
Thank you. I think you addressed it.
Mhm.
Okay, Keith, you get the last question.
Oh, great. Thanks. Hi, Stacy. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Keith. I like your fish.
Yeah, we're all about the oceans over here.
Super
And Santa
cool.
Monica is at the end of the continent, so the oceans are at top of mind. Um, so the landscape for learners is really challenging right now. Um, you know, clearly within whether it's the K through 12, K through 14, and then in university, and then post that, uh, this concept of grades versus skills is kind of on the table. A question about capabilities, versus grades and things such as that. So, and I know in your remarks you described your interest in more competency-based assessment kind of styles, and I'm very familiar, obviously, with PBL and stuff like that. But I'd like to kind of hear a little bit more about how you see the district really accelerating kind of the solutions to some of these pressing challenges of learners, uh, because even as you describe competency-based assessments, the standardized assessments are still there, and we may still be losing some of the robust characteristics of some of our students, young girls as well as students of color in these standardized assessments. So, if you could maybe touch on this kind of the variety of those things, whether it's kind of grades versus skills, competency-based assessments, and robust characteristics of students that sometimes aren't found in standardized testing, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Um, So just to clarify as I start this, there's the way the district assesses grades and does their own testing within all the classes, and then these standardized tests that we do through the state that come down. And so right now, the landscape for California is these standardized tests do exist, and we're using the STAR right now and other tests for literacy, for competencies in English and math and science. I know you know all this, Keith, but just in case anybody is a little less familiar, just to kind of tease that out, that these standardized tests that we give our kids at certain times are different than the testing in the classroom and assessing that, and they kind of come alongside each other and take a lot of time in the classroom at certain times of year and pull out from the other learning they're doing to take these tests. Um, and a lot of those testings from the state came in the form they came quite a few decades ago as kind of a referendum on public education and are we teaching our kids? Is there push? How do we know? And how do we have accountability somewhere? And so I think globally people understand a lot of these tests kind of miss the mark for doing that. But now there's the system. That's how the dashboard is created. That's how we have this comparison between people. So it's a super tricky question, and it ends up impacting the students because they're taking these standardized tests and then they're getting this label back, and it's opening them up or closing them out of certain services at the schools, right? And sometimes the tests, uh, there's some discussion right now. Some of the tests for our EL learners, is it making them um, the test is where maybe they're scoring higher and they would benefit from some tier three learning, but they don't qualify for it anymore. And we only get the funding for the tier three learning if they do that. And then conversely, are we saying students are below par and we're keeping them out of certain other kinds of accelerated programs because they're not making that? So all of these can have teacher, parent, and principal input to say, I don't think this is quite where my student needs to be. That gets very tricky. It also takes a lot of time, and it doesn't always happen due to funding or due to size of classes. So, but in the classroom on a day-to-day basis with figuring out where are they at, what do they need to do, are they getting the skills, and are their grades reflecting that? Is what our what all of our schools should be about, and I think big picture is. And yet I know different experiences can come in the classroom, and teachers for different reasons may do that at different levels or in different ways, or an individual student's experience with a teacher may be different. And some students may learn better under other teachers than some. And so I feel like uh, I feel like if we knew consistently, and I don't mean the district, I mean educating, could do that consistently, we would have all hit a secret sauce. And that's kind of what we're looking for, like what works best for everyone. And it is so much trial and error. But I do feel like where there can be individualized education, so the student can learn the way they learn best and be exposed to ways they don't learn as well so they can build those muscles up, is ideal. And we are trending in that direction, but also where the teachers can start teaching that way and have the support. Our teachers want to teach that way. They do. It's a huge strain on them, especially in large classes, especially when they have students who might be part of an exceptional learning community or have behavioral differences, and how much support they have in the classroom to do that is difficult. So, I do feel like on balance, our teachers know this, our aides know this, our principals know this, the board knows this. It's continuing to put that into practice and see our kids as whole students and do that balance. So, CTE, I think, is one way to help with this. Project-based learning program, Olympic, the project-based learning we're doing in our classrooms, but we're still working on how to do that. and our scores may or may not reflect that very well. I don't love the standardized testing we're doing. I wish we could just focus on the learning and kind of pull that piece out. But the STAR, the way we've revamped in the last year, has given a lot more targeted data to help teachers, especially in math, but in other places too, hone in on areas in a much faster way to help them. So I don't know, Keith. We're still working on it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate again just your leadership and your consistency on staying open to, other forms in that way. And um, the focus on kind of capabilities and not reflecting problem solving skills and critical thinking is really, really crucial, not just for now, but for university and then afterward in terms of industry and potential, jobs. And then, if you're a founder of a company or et cetera.
Yeah.
And then a kind of a corollary to that is like the importance of the humanities, which which maybe was kind of second fiddle for a couple of decades because of the push on STEM, but the humanities is really critical, and industry is reflective of that. So I hope that the district continues to sort of be a leader in the humanities space as well, so that these could be human-centered and holistic students and moving forward. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Keith.
Okay. Thanks so much, Stacy. Really appreciate you coming by.
Thank you all. Take care.
Okay, see ya.